Great. Well, thanks again, Jim. I really appreciate the opportunity to join your audience and to add value and bring a message that I think is going to resonate with a lot of people. During these times of crisis that we're going through right now, uh, there's so much stuff going on about it. But, I tell you, I'm not really going to focus as much on what we're currently dealing with the coronavirus. But what I am going to focus on is just crisis in general and how crisis is really just creates opportunities for us. It creates opportunities for change. It creates opportunities for transformation. Now, I imagine many people have looked at what's going on around them, and as we're either staying at home or safer at home, whichever your state has implemented, and as we're starting to get out into the public a bit more, there's things that we are more aware of. We became aware of just some of the challenges that we face being at home all the time, whether it's schooling our kids at home or just being teleworking. My wife and I are both teleworking at the house, so we have to find different places that we're going to do our work and to not interfere with each other and create any challenges there. But there are certain things that you come to value, and in this, I know I have valued more time. So out of this crisis, one of the changes I've made and one of the transformations I've had to make is embracing the fact that I have more time to do things that really are important to me as a person. And just as I'm sure many of you have found things that are important to you, whether it's, John Maxwell talks about him having a stack of books that he's been wanting to read for a while. Well, now that he's not traveling about, he has more time to read those. And I've been in the same boat. I've read probably 6 books in the past 4 weeks. And it's a good opportunity. So this crisis has brought about a change, an opportunity for change and transformation. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about a transformation in my life that created some changes, and it benefited in the long run. And I think had that transformational moment not happened, I don't know that I would have the life that I have today. So I grew up in North Carolina. I was a normal kid. I ran around. I played with snakes. I threw frogs and all the fun stuff that people do as kids. I got lost in the woods with some friends. Now, I tell you, that was a transformational moment, to say the least, when you have state troopers and the search party looking for you and find you in the middle of nowhere lost. But, as I grew up, I have fond memories of going to my uncle's farm in Roxborough, North Carolina, and going through his baseball memorabilia. And I remember using rocks as baseballs with one of his autographed bats and launching them off into the pond or into the field, not realizing what I had in my hand at the time. Now, as I continued to grow, my memories of childhood and growing up as my father is a pastor, I was taught right from wrong. I knew that God had a purpose for me and that I was created for a purpose. And so I grew up with strong moral Christian values. And as I grew into my teenage years, those values became challenged. And I didn't realize how challenged they were until I joined the U.S. Air Force in 1991. It was at that point that my opportunity for change became apparent to me. So I was joining the service, and I got to my first duty assignment just outside of Washington, D.C., and I was in a cultural melting pot. And it was in that environment that I realized that I had a problem. What I realized was that I was a racist. Now, I grew up knowing to accept everybody, but what I didn't realize was that my environment, the people I hung around with, whether it was just blatant racism or what, just my environment, I allowed that to impact and affect me. Now, I was not, just a gone crazy kind of person, but what I found is that my racism was a little more covert. It was a little more hidden because what it was doing is it was affecting my viewpoint on things. It was affecting my view of others. And it was during that time that I realized that something needed to change. And you may ask, what did change? Well, I'd like to tell you something that brought about this opportunity for me. So I was in a conversation in my work center, and we were joking around about crashing a barbecue over at my supervisor's house. And one of the guys that I was talking with, he said, well, I don't think that's going to be a great idea. And the reason that was is because what I didn't know is that apparently he wasn't all that fond of white dudes. So at that point, I realized what it was like to be discriminated against. I realized what it was like to be unaccepted. And that impacted me. That was something that at that point I realized the pain that others must have felt when I didn't accept them. So whether it was not associating with people or limiting my conversations or whatever it was, whatever narrow-minded views that I had were impacting my life. And it was, impacting my relationships. It was impacting who I would be friends with. And I tell you that had I not made a conscious decision to change, I don't feel as though my 27-year career in the United States Air Force would have been anywhere near as successful as it was. So I wasn't all that great. I wasn't amazing as a young airman. But I tell you, one thing that I had to do from that point is to realize through the help of friends and coaches and my relationship with God was that I needed to be more accepting. So my awareness created an opportunity for me to take action. So the actions that I took are that I began to consciously be aware of what was going on in my life and in my feelings and in my mindset. And then I started to make changes. And the change that I made is one of acceptance, because it would not have been enough for me to just tolerate other people, because tolerating means that there's still some level of intolerance. And it was that intolerance that created the discrimination, the racism, the prejudice, all the things that got me in this place in the first place. So that needed to change. So I began to accept people, and it didn't happen overnight. But as I began to be more aware of this, I was able to change my mindset. It was like a major paradigm shift in my life and how I viewed people. And so from that, I began to accept people for who they were, realizing that what they had to offer was much more than what my narrow-mindedness was allowing me to see. So I had to take that opportunity to change my viewpoints. My mindset had to change. And out of that, what I decided was that my transformational moment was that I was no longer going to allow my mind, my narrow-minded thinking, my messed up viewpoint of others to affect and to rob my relationships any longer. I had to make that change, because during that change, I was able to then create a better outcome for myself. So my crisis was that it wasn't that I joined the Air Force. That was a catalyst. But my crisis was that I realized I needed to change. I had a problem. I was a racist, and that was not okay. It wasn't okay with me. It's not okay in society. So I had to put that aside so I could be a better person. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe that God has a purpose for my life. And so that purpose was that I was able to change and to grow, and then I was able to impact people. So as a coach in the Air Force, I was able to connect with people of all races, of all genders, of all mindsets, of all worldviews, everything. But had I not changed, I would have limited the people that I was interacting with. So I think that it's important that when we take advantage of these opportunities, that we have to have an end in mind. And so I was able to see what was going on, and by affecting other people, I realized that I had the ability to connect with people. So in my coaching business, one of the things I do is I connect with people. I use opportunities to hear and to listen to them, to find their stories, to find out what's going on in their life. Do they have crisis? Do they have transformations? And in that, I'm able to do a multitude of things. I'm able to coach them personally on creating a new mindset or overcoming some challenges to increase their level of awareness. Because when we increase our awareness and we listen to ourselves, we're able to then realize what we need to act on. And then I enjoy, and one of the things that's helped me is I've gone through this, and as I'm telling this story right now, I realize that we all have a story to tell. And it's our stories that help us transform. And it's our transformation that is our story. And that we can share that with other people. So I firmly believe that everybody has a story. So when I work with some of my clients that are going to be trying to find their story, or what I can help them in a speaking vein, but ultimately it's that story that defines their life. And you go through a life story timeline that I offer, and I'm going to offer that to folks that connect with me after this. Is that life story timeline allows you to see those key points in your life that maybe were transformational moments or opportunities to transform. Maybe there wasn't a transformation. Maybe a crisis was there that you did not transform out of, and it's still affecting you today. It's still affecting your mindset. It's affecting your actions. Well, I like to use that story, your life story, to navigate where I can help you. So I would encourage you today to look at your life, connect with me so I can give you that life story timeline, but look at your life and figure out, is there something that was a crisis for you that you did not transform the way you wanted to? I think that it's important for us to all do that introspection, to look at our life, to ask the tough questions, and to make the changes that are necessary to create positive outcomes. You know, if you look back in biblical times, Noah, he had a task ahead of him. He had to build an ark because the crisis was that the world was going to be annihilated by a flood. And out of that, people needed to change. Some things needed to happen. Had he not built the ark, who knows where we'd be today. So those crisis opportunities that are out there, don't run from them. Use them as a catalyst for change. Use them to transform your life in some way. Because when you do that, you're going to be better for it. You're going to be able to impact other people. And I tell you, there are people with your story, with your life, there are others that are waiting to hear it. There are others that are going to be impacted by the change and the crisis that you make. So whether you're trying to make yourself a better person, or you're trying to get out onto a stage and share your story with others to help them transform, do it. Now, my challenge, my crisis was that I had to overcome racism to have a life that God intended for me. And I feel that I'm in this place right now, right here, because of the transformation I made. I wouldn't be telling you this story. So what transformation do you need to make? What life crisis do you need to overcome for a positive change. I look forward to connecting with you, and God bless you. Thank you for being here today, and I hope this message has inspired you.
Well, thank you so much, Rich. That was a very inspiring story, and it takes a lot of courage to be honest, doesn't it?
It does.
To admit, this is a problem that I had, because we all have problems, we all have baggage, and everybody's got hang-ups, as we say. But one of the things that you served in the Air Force for 27 years, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, I served a total of 31 years in the Army. So one thing I think you'll agree with me on this: the military has done a wonderful job in being able to make everyone look at the individual person on the inside,
Yep.
because that's what we're all about. Because that's the real us. This thing called flesh, I mean, it's going to rot away one day. You hate to think
Yep.
about your body rotting away, but that's the way it's going to happen. But the real us, we live forever. And to be able to treat someone like you want to be treated, that's the key. That's what was drilled in my mind when I grew up. Mom and dad would always tell me, mother always said, if you can't say something nice about somebody, don't say anything at all.
Right.
Real good advice. But I was always brought up to, respect people and all that. And very, very thankful. And, but like I say, everyone, sometimes in life we're too embarrassed to admit our shortcomings and our faults, our hangups,
Right.
because we all have, shortcomings and faults. I mean, nobody's immune to it. No one's perfect, right? And I really
Yeah,
salute
that's
you
true.
for sharing your message there and being open and honest. Like I say, it takes a lot of courage, and I admire that and I respect that. And Rich, what's your website, and how can people get in touch with you and say, hey, I think I can talk to this guy here because at least I know he's honest and he'll help me?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's exactly what I try to do. My website is www.hirecallingconsultingllc.com. I know it's a long one, but hirecallingconsultingllc.com. And if they go on there, they can go to my Connect link and send a message to me. And for those that do, I want to be able to give them a graphic that I've created for a life story timeline to help them see where those moments are in their life that could impact themselves and other people.